Okay, guys, Adam Trigger here. It is time for Wednesday on the clock. The content on the show yesterday was great. 6-2, so kind of a double on the clock yesterday, if you will. I did a segment on Wager Talk today with 4 games, and then I did the on the clock segment with 4 games. Those went 6-2, and sure enough, the one client play that I liked the most, Cincinnati, had no chance. So 0-1 for me on the client card. Super frustrating, and it's prompted me to make a little bit of a change, at least temporarily, at least for now. I'm going to start firing a few more plays. You're going to start seeing 3% plays instead of 4% plays, at least early in the day, because I want to be able to make sure that if I have 4 games going at 7 Eastern on a Wednesday, I'm keeping my risk sort of in check. So if you start to see 3% plays, which you will, they all have the ability to be upgraded to a 4%. But the reason I'm doing that is it's going to give me a little bit more flexibility, in my opinion, to play more games and not totally get crazy with the risk amount. So a little bit of a change that I've decided to make. I'm going to give you one of them on the show here. I'm also getting rid of parlay of the day for the time being, because I've preached for years that you should never be parlaying. Certainly not parlaying basketball. Obviously, you don't do teasers in basketball. Yeah, I had it as part of the show, and after a kind of a quick start, they haven't been very good. So I got 4 angles. We went 3-1 in our 2 4-packs yesterday. I'd love to go 4-0 here, and we're going to start things off with a marquee matchup in the Missouri Valley. I know it's not the marquee game of the night. I know there's big games in the SEC, but I don't care, because my marquee matchup tonight, Missouri Valley, Drake versus Bradley, 90 seconds on the clock. And listen, this is a huge game for Drake. They've now lost back-to-back games. The 12-0 Drake Bulldogs, who had everyone's attention, have now got back into conference play and lost to Illinois, Chicago, and Murray State. And they're looking at a 3rd loss in a row right here, having to go on the road to Bradley, who was the preseason favorite in this conference coming into the season, and they're off to a 4-0 start. The total here is 126. I don't have much of a total opinion, but I do think that number is accurate in the sense that this is going to be a grind. Listen, before I even get into a breakdown, like this just has 62-60 Missouri Valley, like last second finish written all over it, in my opinion. Both of these teams will play to a similar pace. I think they are very even in terms of their offense and defensive rating. I think Ben McCollum, I've talked about him a ton. He's an elite basketball coach, and I love the idea of getting Ben McCollum off 2 losses in a desperate spot and catching the key number of 3. This open 3, bet back down to 2.5. I'm starting to see the 3s start to pop up places for this one. So I like Drake here. I think Drake is going to find a way to grind this game to a halt and win this game. And if they don't, I think there's a good chance that this is a sort of buzzer beater, thriller type game. 2 very evenly matched teams in a huge spot for Drake. So we're going to go ahead and take the 3 with the Bulldogs. All right, let's move on to total of the day. And maybe I should just start firing totals, because I've never really considered myself much of a totals handicapper. Not super confident when it comes to totals, and yet I keep hitting them on this show. We had the Auburn, Texas over from Wager Talk today, yesterday. We had the under in Kentucky, Georgia. So a lot of these totals keep hitting that we're talking about. And a team that's come up in total of the day frequently is High Point. Although I've decided to go the other way with High Point now. Early in the year, I was looking at High Point as an under team. I noticed that their pace had slowed way down, but they're starting to play faster. They're starting to play more like last year's team, which played at a much faster pace than this year's team. The other thing I've noticed, when High Point plays, it is a foul fest just about every time. Look at some of these recent games. Over the weekend, the Asheville game, 67 foul shots. Couple games prior to that, Norfolk State, 56. The Southern Illinois game had 69 free throws. The game that I was at the beginning of December, 64 foul shots. So you've got the safety valve, in my opinion, in the High Point games, either you're going to get the pace that you're going to start to get an increased pace and some efficient scoring, or you're just going to get the free throw line, and you're probably going to get there at the free throw line. Charleston Southern just got DJ Patrick back. He's their best offensive player, at least one of them. That makes them much better offensively, in my opinion. And, they'll play fast. Like, they're definitely willing to play a faster pace. So I'm going the other way now with High Point. 3 of their last 4 games have gone over. And this one has all the makings of one that goes over. So, listen, you're not fooling the books. They've upped their totals with High Point. This is in the 150s, I believe, 152 or 152 and a half. But like I said, pace, the fact that Charleston's got a scorer back, and the foul fest that seems to be every High Point game probably pushes this one over the total. Okay. Time for boots on the ground, and we're going to head to the game I'll be at tonight. As soon as I'm done filming this, I'm hitting the road and making the 4-hour drive in the snow. It's not as bad as it was out this morning, to Kingston, Rhode Island, where I'll be in the building for George Washington, URI, 2 teams that, listen, I full credit to both of these teams. I didn't have either of these teams doing anything in the Atlantic 10 this year, and they are both off to tremendous starts. Both ended up with huge wins over the weekend. George Washington blows Dayton out without one of their best players. Rhode Island grinds a win out against George Mason. They're both fantastic start to the season for both George Washington and Rhode Island. I'll be honest, I'm still not a big-time believer in either team going forward, but I've got to disagree with this line move here, which has pushed Rhode Island up to 7.5. And you know what? I'm on a nice run. I've now hit the last 4 games I've been at. I've had a best bet and I've cashed. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this one on the card. I took George Washington plus 7.5. I just don't think, even if Buchanan is out again for George Washington, and that is why I think this line has moved the way it has, I still can't justify a 2-point move in what I already thought was a little bit of an inflated spread. We saw last game, Buchanan wasn't really missed because it just meant more shots for Gerald Drumgoole, who's a player that I loved when he was at UAlbany. He's a 6th-year senior. He's been around forever, and he's put up 20-plus in back-to-back games. He's getting more shots, and Trey Autry's getting more shots. So he had a really solid game against Dayton. So as good as Buchanan is, I don't know that George Washington is 2 points worse if he's not in there right now. I think that guys have sort of filled that role, and that was very apparent against Dayton over the weekend. So Rhode Island 12-2, 9-0 at home. Rhode Island has not played a single team this year in Quad 1 or Quad 2. They're 7-2 against Quad 3 with losses to Brown and Duquesne, neither of which are great losses, and they're 4-0 in Quad 4. Listen, both of these teams probably a little bit overrated at this point, but Rhode Island laying 7.5 is crazy. I just that's such an inflated number. I think George Washington probably overcomes the loss of Buchanan again here and at least keeps this close. I had to take George Washington plus 7.5. I had this one, even with Buchanan out, I had this like 5.5. So nice line value. And right now that's a 3% play for me. That's on the client card. And we are going to head over to the poll play. I put up a poll. I said pick one of the service or military academies in action tonight. And by a very slim margin, Air Force won the poll. So poll play Air Force, San Diego State. I actually have a pretty strong opinion here. Listen, my numbers love Air Force here, but my numbers love Air Force every time they play. So, this opened at 22. I looked at this last night and I said, oh my God, my numbers, it should be an auto play at 22 based on my numbers. It probably should have been, considering the fact that this is now down to like 19.5. But there's right now for Air Force, like if Bo Becker was his normal self, this would be a no doubt play for me. So Bo Becker, in my opinion, the best player on this Air Force roster, he goes down in Air Force's first game of the season. He did not return until two games ago, but he's barely played. I think he played like 7 minutes in his first game back, 8 minutes in his second game back. Didn't really score in either, kind of a non-factor. It looks like they're just kind of getting him out there for a shift or two just to let him move around a little bit. So my whole thing is like, now that he's back, he's baked into the number. I can't bet on Air Force unless I know I'm getting like the normal Bo Becker, the guy that averaged 14 points a game last season. And, my other issue here is, so if you go back a couple weeks ago, we had Air Force 4% play on the road at Boise State, plus 20.5. That was a 1-point game at halftime, and we had to hold on for dear life to cover 20.5 at Boise. I think Air Force ended up losing the game by 18. Boise is a top 100 defense in college basketball. San Diego State is a top 20 defense in college basketball. And that is my fear for Air Force here, is that they go on one of their extended scoring droughts, and suddenly this lead is right up around 20 for San Diego State. Pharaoh Compton might miss tonight for the home team. I don't know how much that, like, he's certainly, like, as far as point per minute, he's very efficient. Like, he's definitely one of their higher rated individuals on the roster, given his production for only playing 14 minutes a game. So him being out would certainly be tough for San Diego State. But until Becker is productive, like I need him to be, I don't know that I can get to the window with Air Force. So for show purposes, I do like the Air Force Falcons here. That is my pick. I believe we're still at 19.5 or 20 at the time of recording, but they are taking money for what it's worth. So that'll be my pick. But again, I just can't see myself getting to the window at a bad number with Air Force until I see a better performance from Becker, who's clearly, affecting that line, because this would be 22 if he wasn't playing tonight. That's it for On the Clock today. Give me a follow on X at AdamTriggerWT. I'll be posting from the game, and I'll let you know if I'm going to upgrade that George Washington play to a 4%. I'll let you know. Already 2 angles locked in, so check out the 1-day pass. Great way to get all the plays. I expect to have, I'm going to have at least 2. They're already locked in, potentially more, and all of those will be on the 1-day pass. So check that out. Like and subscribe to the WagerTalk YouTube channel so I can continue to do this show for you on a daily basis. And we'll be back with more On the Clock tomorrow. Cash all your tickets. Have a great day. We'll see you guys tomorrow.